It's Temple Tuesday. I'm Joey and I'm here just outside of the Community of Christ Temple in Independence, Missouri. Legend has it that the temple granite that you see here was actually selected because it reflected, even quite literally, the stucco that would be found at the Kirtland Temple in Ohio. Men and boys would gather old crockery and glass that would then be crushed and dumped into the stucco. This would cause it to sparkle in the sunlight. Lines would then also be drawn on the stucco to replicate the appearance of mortar joints, so that from a distance, these lines and the sparkling glass would make it look like the building was made from large cut stone. The finest buildings of the time would have been made from cut stone. But of course, we couldn't afford that, and so we came up with a creative solution to replicate the look. But men and boys were not the only contributors to the building of the Kirtland Temple. According to the words of a non-member minister from Kirtland, the women of the Kirtland period were asked to give up even the necessities of life, he says, in order to build the temple. This might mean adequate food, clothing, or even shelter. At least one woman that we know of drove a wagon loaded with stone from the quarry to the temple site. Others would sew partitions or veils that would be used to separate the large rooms into smaller spaces. And even others would make clothing for workmen, or some would even weave rugs. It wasn't actually until much later that stories began to appear of women that would donate their fine china and glassware to make the building shine. Or you might have even heard that some would give their hair, although we did find some hair in the plaster on the inside of the building. But it was very typical at the time to use animal hair to bind the plaster inside, and that's exactly what we did. Regardless, though, of how this story was used to tell about the sacrifice of women in the building of the temple, women would have been an integral part of the construction of the temple. In fact, women were a big part of what would happen in the temple, with worships, Thursday prayer services where they would speak or even sing in tongues. And even Sidney Rigdon points out that women are a part of the purpose of the temple. He said that at the time, because of the lack of education of people, they were often being taken advantage of. And so he specifically said that the temple should be a place of education. And he talked about schools for boys and girls, male and female. It's not surprising then that in section 156, when it was presented at the 1984 World Conference, it called the church to move quickly with the construction of the temple in Independence, but also called the church forward in our understanding of the role of women for the entire faith movement's work to become a people of the temple. And I love the way that it said in 156:9c, therefore, do not wonder that some women of the church are being called to priesthood responsibilities. This is in harmony with my will. It's almost as if the temple couldn't even be built unless it was accompanied by this important ground leveling component, the foundation of equality for all genders. The first large event held in the temple was the International Women's Conference. And I work with a woman in Germany who almost every time she sees me can't help but mention how meaningful that experience was at that event, where she truly felt Christ's presence, and how appropriate that women who from the start have toiled in the mission field alongside men would be the first to christen, to experience the Christ in this space, in this building, dedicated to the pursuit of peace. Gender equality for Community of Christ has served as an important foundation for our growing understanding of oneness and equality in Christ, and has been the cornerstone upon which we have continued to seek full participation for people of every race, gender identity, sexual orientation, marital status, age, physical and mental ability, national origin, ethnic background, economic status, and political ideology. So here is your challenge today. Take time to meditate on what full opportunity, full participation, and equality look like in your local context as you consider these words from Doctrine and Covenants, section 165, 3e. Oneness and equality in Christ do not mean uniformity. They mean unity in diversity and relating in Christ-like love to the circumstances of others as if they were one's own. They also mean full opportunity for people to experience human worth and related rights, including expressing God-given giftedness in the church and society. And we'll see you next week.